My name is Tyler Fornes, and I am one of the co-hosts of the Good, the Bad, and the Hungy AEW podcast here on the Voice of Wrestling Podcasting Network. We take a broad scope approach to the world of All Elite Wrestling and the entire universe of Tony Khan. We talk about the big matches, the big stars, the promos, the storylines, and we also look at it from a big picture perspective. How are things going to change over the course of the next 10 years with AEW still in the picture? How are companies like WWE going to adapt and adjust to AEW? Are they going to be a similar way like they did with WCW in the late 1990s? Will there be a counterpunch? We talk about all of that and more on The Good, The Bad, and The Hungy every week on the Voices of Wrestling Network.
This podcast is a member of the Voices of Wrestling Podcasting Network. Visit voicesofwrestling.com to hear the rest of our great podcasts, as well as show reviews, columns, opinions, and updates across the world of wrestling.
To the highway in a brand new day. Gotta let it go. So fast to finger down. Dance tonight together. Here everyone is singing. 你看到我就怕，头皮发麻，我的手。
Welcome back to Open the Voice Gate for July 9th, 2024. We are members of the Voices of Wrestling Podcast Network. You can find us on the Voices of Wrestling Podcast Network feed or on our own dedicated Open the Voice Gate feed on all podcast platforms and applications. You can follow us on Twitter, X, at Open Voice Gate. If you would like to donate to the show, click the link in the show notes. It'll take you to our redcircle.com landing site. You will click a red box to sponsor this podcast. And you can set up a one-time or reoccurring donation. No obligation whatsoever, but we would like to thank all of our previous donors. I'm one of your hosts. It's your old pal, Mike Spears, joined alongside, as always, Case Lowe. And Case, what is the correct group of 5 team to start your NCAA 2024 campaign with?
Oh, God, I don't know. We were talking about this off air, about how excited we both are about the new college football game. And is Rice University would be in the group of 5, right?
Yeah, Rice would.
Because they're a CUSA team.
Yeah. Somehow they're still a part of that. They didn't get the memo to get to the Sun Belt.
Yeah, I am always partial to Rice because they had good college baseball teams when I was a kid, and that weirdly carries a lot of weight with me. So Rice might be the option there.
I like it. I've been trying to decide if I want to go UTSA or if I feel like I need to go like Western Kentucky and like really scrap it out and go.
Western Kentucky is a good one. The thing I like about Rice is that they're, it's Texas football, but it is by no means a marquee program. So if you find success there, all of a sudden you become the black sheep of college football in Texas. And that's a fun little angle to run with.
Yeah, I mean, like, would it be fun to be like the old ball coach trying to run Rice? The school for nerds, the school for all the nerds. How nerdy is it? Just so that people get a sense about like how nerdy they were. John F. Kennedy did a speech about why does Rice University play Texas as a allegory for why people were going to the moon.
Wow.
Yeah.
God bless America.
Hey, I mean, we missed last week because of that.
Oh, my God. I mean, stars and stripes, baby. We were out in full force celebrating. The people that love America, Case Lowe and Mike Spears, we made sure to live it up for the 4th. Am I right, brother?
I mean, there are a few things that, over that period that I tried to do. I did make it to a baseball game.
Oh, love it. Love it.
Yeah. But I mean, it just like so happens that I'm so used to how the holiday is, and being now someone like nearing my 40s, that's like I somehow lucked out for like the best middle-aged birthday, because July 1st works out great with July 4th right around the corner. No one bugs me.
This is true. I forgot about your birthday this year. I felt bad. I felt really bad.
Rich Craich had the best line, which was, "You accomplished your goal, man. I am jealous of you."
Well, Rich is very funny with birthdays because there's a few people at Voices of Wrestling, and this is not a shot towards them, but there's a few people that are like, it's my birthday, everybody tell me happy birthday. Like, they're into birthdays. But Rich also knows the people like you, me, and Rich himself who are not big birthday guys. And so every February 12th, I get a DM or a text from Rich that's like, do you want me to say anything?
Oh my God.
And
Yeah.
I'm always like, no, I'm good. It's okay. I already feel like I am far too old to be on this earth, and that birthdays are just counting down inevitable doom. I don't need you to say anything.
I mean, like, I had a lifetime of having the birthday right around like the one big summer holiday. So like I got pretty much out of that real early. So
yeah, summer birthdays as a kid, I always thought were really tough. I've never been a huge birthday guy, but I at least always liked that I was in school for my birthday.
Yeah, and you know what my half birthday was?
Oh, what's that?
For summer kids, of course, Case, you celebrate on your half birthday, right?
Okay.
Like whenever like you would like get like the cupcake or whatever, like, or like they'd be like, "Oh, it's your birthday." My half birthday is New Year's Day. So
shot. Oh my God.
Yeah. So as a joke, whenever they're like, "When do you want to like do something for it or like be named?" And I was like, do it on like April Fool's Day. I don't care. Even at age 10, I was apathetic about my birthday.
That is why we do this podcast. That all makes a ton of sense. And even though I know you quite well, I feel like I know you even better now.
Well, let's talk about what happened within the Dragon system over the last few weeks. And by and large, it's been a very quiet June for Dragongate. Things kicked off really hot into July, but the first thing, and I'm going to just read off from our run sheet Case, Gleat Volume 12 happened on July 1st from Tokyo Dome City Hall, and your notes here are Gleat fucking sucks.
It's awful. It's really awful. And I really wanted to write about this show, and I just didn't have time. But I watched this show really closely, and this is just a bad wrestling promotion at a time where the economy is severely depressed. But 2024, it's like, oh, All Japan's interesting. Oh, look at Noah. Like, Noah's kind of doing a thing. People claim New Japan's back. I'm very hands off on that one. I'll tune into the G1 stuff that looks good, but I don't have faith in their booking at all that New Japan is, quote, back. And Dragongate, I think, has had a really excellent few months here. Then you just look at Gleat, and I don't know, man. This show sucked. This was a bad wrestling show from Tokyo Dome City Hall, and normally we don't go match by match. I guess we won't here, but I do have a ton of thoughts that I kind of wanted to share because this is their, third anniversary?
Correct, yes.
Okay, so a lot of times when I watch Gleat, and I said this the last time we talked about this promotion, but, you know, I try to watch it through the lens of, okay, if I lived in Tokyo, or I lived in Osaka, or I lived in Hokkaido, you know, wherever they're running, if I lived in the market of that show, would I buy a ticket to that show? And if I didn't live in the market of that show, but, you know, let's say it's an Osaka show and I live in Tokyo, would the card be strong enough on paper for me to want to go to this show? That is normally how I analyze their shows on paper, because I believe the purpose of this promotion is that they are trying to grab people like myself with my interest in the things I like in wrestling. I was watching this show through the lens of, okay, it's their third anniversary, so we have to compare this promotion to 2001, 2002, 2003 era Toryumon and think about the things that Toryumon did well compared to this promotion. And my biggest takeaway from this was throughout the 3-year history of Gleat, and maybe there's a match or two that has slipped through the cracks that I'm just not thinking of, but by and large, the weirdest part about this promotion is that nothing ever over-delivers. Like, if you think about going back to the September 1999 Korakuen Hall show, where you had Genki and Susumu in a match that was like shockingly great. You know, nobody was expecting it to be anything because it wasn't Shima, it wasn't Magnum, it wasn't Mochi. It was kids that weren't on the main line having this awesome undercard match. It was like, oh my God, they have those guys. And then you think about, you know, all of the undercard gems in the early years of Toryumon. And the thing with Gleat is like they put out cards and I go, okay, what's Lindemann doing? Okay, what's T-Hawk doing? Is Ashita doing anything interesting? Probably not, but let me take a look. All right, let's go through the charade of what are SBK and Takuma doing. But there's never a match 3 on a Gleat show that people are like, man, those guys went out there and killed it. Everybody needs to check this out. It's always, hey, Lindemann had a pretty good match and maybe T-Hawk delivered and Ashita might have showed up or Yamamura might have had a good match. But this is an odd company where they've had some really high-end matches. I voted for Gleat matches in my Voices of Wrestling Match of the Year poll, but it's a main event. It's a world title match. There's never anything that I leave from these shows going, oh man, that was so much better than I expected it to be. And this show was not only did anything not over-deliver, a lot of it was so incredibly underwhelming, I just can't believe it.
Yeah, I usually take pretty thorough notes for Gleat shows. This was a show that afterwards I was like, oh, we weren't planning on like talking or recording, and you're like, oh, let's go over this. I was like, do I need to rewatch this show? And it was like, no, I'm looking at the results right now, and everything comes rushing back as like a hangover that just won't go away. And I guess like for me, like at like this pit stop for them, you should be at a point in a promotion's like lifespan where we should have some sort of identity of what the promotion should be. But as you mentioned, and I kind of started chuckling, 2002 Toryumon Japan had a very clear mission, it had a very clear image, everything was set up, right? Like you knew what that promotion was. You walk away from this show where it is structured incredibly awkward. It has they have the issue of the UWF's portion of the card. They like putting it at the end of everything, so it's on top of like a full general like G Pro Wrestling show, and you walk away going like, I should have cared a lot more about Kaz Hayashi's retirement match.
I can't believe they swung and missed on that one.
Yeah, like the one thing that like I've been enjoying like most consistently over the last 6 months has been Kaz Hayashi's just general vibe on these shows. Like his theme starts playing and you get a smile because you go like, oh hey, Kaz Hayashi's coming. And we had this retirement road, which the Osaka show where he had 3-minute matches felt more like the retirement than what he had where the Korakuen drop the G Infinity title belt to BGI, Ishida, and Izuchi, and no one really gets anything out of it because it's not like they put Kaz Hayashi out on his shield like at like such a level where it was like, oh, he went out for it. It just was like, oh, Ishida got a German suplex and he won. And no one gains anything out of this. And you would hope that at this time with someone with a career of Kaz Hayashi, you would have some sort of, going back to my point of where this promotion is in 3 years, like it would feel like a relatively huge thing. Kaz Hayashi is one of the more, I mean, like we might forget it over the past of times, but one of the more important junior heavyweights of the last 30 years. A part of like the most formulative group in junior heavyweight wrestling in the 1990s, and it just was like the biggest swing and whiff possible coming on this show.
Not only a formulative part of Michinoku Pro, but also one of the 2 members of one of the most respected junior tag teams of the 21st century with him and Shuji Kondo. And obviously they can't play off the Kondo stuff here, but it was another thing that fell flat. I mean, I said this about a year ago and they haven't done anything to fix it, but Black Generation International and Bulk Orchestra and Strong Hearts are all the same thing. They're all presented in the exact same way. And I don't need this promotion to be Chikara or the really wacky side of Osaka Pro. But especially when you're not loading up BGI with luchadors, there's just no differentiation between any of these units. At least, in current day Dragongate, there's a theme with Paradox, and Z-Brats work in their own way, and D-Courage have their own little vibe, and Natural Vibes has carved out a niche, and we'll talk about Gold Class a ton on this show, obviously, but they all have their own identity, and I don't think any unit in this promotion has their own identity other than Jan's family, which is a lower card act, and that is of great detriment to them, and I'm ready for this entire promotion to be shaken like a snow globe, but I don't know if they're going to do that. I don't know what they're going to do.
I mean, it is a real statement when, and I'm blanking on what his first name is, I apologize, but the president of Ladette Suzuki doing a big tweet about, hey, we had just eclipsed our best Tokyo Dome City Hall attendance, and it was like 14 tickets. It was like, slow your roll. You kind of sold out a lot of your promotion to serve the Kazuhiko Nakajima here, and you only got 14 more tickets. And it's something where Nakajima comes in, he cleans Takanori Ito's clock, he becomes the new Ladette UWF champion, and El Lindemann gets immediately into his face, and it's the first time since he left Dragongate where I look at El Lindemann in an interaction, I'm like, oh, man, that's the wrong choice there, Linda. Just Nakajima kind of just, in one interaction, completely deflated the heart and soul of this promotion.
Okay, let me get back to that, because I want to start at the opening match, and we'll go really quickly through this, but 10-man tag, shout out Joe Lando. He got hurt on the finish, which was a crazy injury. I'm glad he's okay. I thought he looked good. I liked on the Ibushi side of things, the Yukimitsu Takahashi guy who doesn't have a cage match profile.
Yeah.
I put him on the next show. I like that guy. That guy seemed like he had potential. That guy looked like he should be a Gleat wrestler in a complimentary way. I'd like to see him back. Jan's family match did nothing for me. Octagon Jr., Soma Watanabe versus SBK and Takuma. Octagon Jr. was very good. I thought he was borderline electric and the star of the show.
He's really, I mean, given the baggage of being an Octagon Jr., I feel like...
And not an easy role.
Not an easy role. And I've always kind of come away going oh yeah, that's who Octagon Jr. is now. He's pretty great. And even though there was a little botch towards the finish, I felt like that was the most, I thought he came away as a big perspective star. And especially as Gleat is sliding into the AAA access pretty firmly, it bringing him over and doing it in that way and not getting tricked around to go hey, we're right now, AAA, we're going to send over Nino Hamburguesa. You got someone in here who is going to work for them. SB and Taku, I just don't know what to say at this.
Well, we talked about the botch off air because it was Kento on the ring apron and Octagon Jr. on the top rope, and I think they were trying to do a Rana from the apron to the floor. And,
yeah, very clearly doing that.
And Kento dropped Octagon, but I will defend Kento. Octagon Jr. came at him at a speed that I've never seen an attempted Hurricane Rana do before. I don't think Daisuke Sakamoto, who was on the show, would have been able to base for him properly because he came at him at just an absurd rate of speed. So, whatever. It was, it's another Kento and Takuma match where I thought Kento looked pretty good, and I was reminded of okay, he's not totally dead yet. There might be something there. And Takuma, once again, I just thought was completely underwhelming.
I just taking the other side of that. I mean, if you set up that spot, SB has to go immediately, or you're dropping the guy on the apron like he did.
I literally just thought he came at SB too quick, and you see SB's knees buckling away where it's
he doesn't let go of the rope. That's the problem.
No, he doesn't. But I will defend SB on that one. It was a fine match. I mean, I would watch it just to see Octagon Jr. because again, I kind of thought he was the star of the show here. Black Generation International versus Strongheart 6-man. This did nothing for me. I was actually. And I can't believe I'm saying this. I would have never imagined I would have said this exact sentence 6 months ago in December. I'm disappointed Yamamura didn't have something better to do on this show because he has been scarily good. But this was a nothing match. Kendo Kashin and Kaz Fujita, absolute nonsense. I don't understand what they're doing with Kawakami.
Yeah, so I kind of think that they're doing an Invader thing where he, Bulk Orchestra is going to break up now. It seems or because it's it'll be Tamura's thing. This is all dating back to him exploding Gleat President Suzuki. Hey, maybe not incorporate your owner into things. That maybe your owner needs to kind of lay off that shit. But he was storyline fired. He changed his name to Ryuichi Fire Kawakami, playing off that. Kind of was like leading off like he was going to match himself up with Onita. He's still working for the company. He's just no longer under contract. He invaded DDT. It just is just this weird thing where you have this group right now. I mean, how does Hayato Tamura doesn't like they did a match between them, but it's just like you're completely pulling focus away from the guy who needs the focus on him at the most important show of the year because of dumb Ryuichi Kawakami angles with Kazuki Fujita. You know, like we don't need that.
I guess I leave an asterisk on that one because maybe there's something I'm not understanding that's getting lost in translation, but I'm really confused on the Kawakami stuff. So didn't enjoy that. Ishida and Izuki versus Shima and Kaz Hayashi. This is the Kaz Hayashi retirement match. It went 15 minutes. I thought Kaito Ishida was completely invisible for the first 12 minutes of this match. And that is a problem. And I can't believe we're going to come up on 2 years of Ishida and Gleat in October, and they've gotten nothing out of him. It's amazing. It's the Lindemann versus Ishida match in Osaka, which was great, which you and I praised, which I think I might have given 4 3/4 stars to.
Yeah, I was 4.5 stars on that thing.
It was great. And other than that, I mean, I don't care about this tag team at all. Maybe if they were in a different unit and presented differently, I'd be a little bit more into it. But I thought it was a very good match that was on the cusp of being great because of the last few minutes. But I was just astounded at how little Ishida did for most of this match.
Yeah, it's such a confounding thing. The overall BGI presentation. Apparently, there's like talk that more that Black Generation has reformed in Big Lucha, but it's with people that aren't really affiliated or I expect to go to Japan. So it's so awkward to begin with that they really should just go by BGI and drop all the Black Generation kind of stuff. And I imagine they might have to do that because of the AAA stuff, maybe. But it just feels like Ishida and his weird little friend that was just completely made a geek over the last year. Like, you can't care about this team. Like,
no, and I'm unfortunately at a point now where I just don't care about Hayato Tamura because I didn't think this G-Rex match was any good.
Yeah, I mean, you had to try him. But you're now, like, at this case here, man, where you go to from here? Like, Lindemann's getting chumped out by Nakajima, so like you can't put the belt back on him, but that would be where I'd be looking towards at this point.
It's really weird. The Galeno Del Mal match wasn't any good. The SB Kento match wasn't any good. I liked the Minoura Tanaka match. I'm historically lower on Minoura Tanaka than most.
Yeah.
But I thought Tanaka performed a miracle in that match. I didn't like the Ito match. I didn't like the Lindemann match. I didn't like this Ino match. It's been 6 title defenses, and I think 5 of them have been mediocre at best.
That's because Minoru Fujita or Minoru Tanaka, not Fujita. Tanaka secretly might be one of the best things in this promotion because he does go and tries and everything.
Yeah, I was very impressed by that match they had in Korakuen. I don't have a ton of thoughts on Sekimoto versus Ibushi. I thought Ibushi looked fine. It wasn't good. I didn't want to see more of it, but he certainly looked better than he did at Noah, I thought.
I mean, I just play back my tape I said about the Ryogoku match he had at this point. He looked better. Like, you're absolutely right, but like the company has made a decision, and you know, it kind of makes sense that Ibushi is someone they want to kind of tie their wagon to because there's nothing draws. And I don't know if we could say that this brought people to the show, but you at least got to have Ibushi on this show, I guess. But again, those 14 tickets, really, like, how much is that really worth, you know?
I will say credit to you. Last year when they ran Sumo Hall, you accurately predicted that Gleat would be the company to host Ibushi's 20th anniversary celebration, which this technically was. More power to you. You were right on the money there.
I mean, he has no other place.
I mean, Noah could have stuck their nose in again, but they decided not to.
I think Noah got their hand bit by him. So
yes, I would say so. So here's the part where I'm really angry. And we're going to talk about how awesome Dragongate was this past week in just a second. But the UWF matches on this show, because I already wasn't enjoying it. And then I had to watch Josh Barnett.
He looks so shitty now.
Is there a bigger fucking fart sniffer in all of pro wrestling than Josh Barnett? This guy in 20 years has contributed a very good but not great Yuji Nagata Tokyo Dome match, in which I'm pretty sure Josh Barnett believes that the worked attendance number is the real number of people that he drew to the Tokyo Dome. And then a great Minoru Suzuki Bloodsport match, kind of at the peak of Minoru Suzuki doing US Indies, where he was treated like a god. And other than that, he has contributed nothing positive to pro wrestling. I will also, you know what I'll give him? The original New Japan on Access commentary team, which was him and Mauro Ranallo, is one of my favorite booths of all time. So in 20 years, a very good but not great Yuji Nagata match, a great Minoru Suzuki match, and I like the 6 months of commentary between him and Mauro Ranallo. Other than that, this guy fucking sucks. I hate his presence. I hate his look. I hate the fact that he thinks as highly of himself as he does. He is such an utter waste of space. In the world of pro wrestling, he's never made anybody. He's never going to make anybody. I don't know if he's a big enough star anywhere to make anybody.
He's
not.
Ace.
I fucking get over this guy.
Look at that Bloodsport Bushido show where they actually had to tarp off Sumo Hall. They never tarp off that
show wouldn't have filled Korakuen. That was
that show might not have filled
Shinjuku Face
Osaka #2.
Yeah. Oh my god. I can't believe him. Here's Yuazuka, who, let's be honest, not my favorite wrestler in the world. Now, not a bad
watching
wrestler,
paint dry.
But you and I are advocating for Yuazuka on the Voices of Wrestling 30 Under 30. Even he's fine, whatever. Not my guy, but also I don't hate him. But he's 27 years old.
He's that old. He looks like he's 17.
I know. He's 27 in a promotion where your biggest stars are in their 50s, and Hayato Tamura is now greatly cooled off. I can't factor him in as one of the promotion's biggest stars. And Katsuhiko Nakajima, more on that later, but who the fuck knows? You have this 27-year-old who comes out there, and Josh Barnett just disrespects him and kills him, and the fat fuck beats him in 3 minutes. And it's a waste of everybody's time. This is the thing that I will never understand about this promotion. And Jay talked about this, I think it was a year ago when he was on, where, the financial backing of this promotion loves the UWF stuff, but they know that the people that make the most money for Gleat, if they make money at all, but the people that are ideally the best draws are the Strong Hearts guys, which are ideologically, they could not be more different. And so I'm trying to think about me as a ticket buyer on this show, where it's like, okay, I'll buy a ticket to the show for the Kaz Hayashi match, and I'll also see T-Hawk and Yamamura and maybe SBK, and I'll have a good time. And then I have to watch Josh Barnett wrestle. That is punishment. That is awful.
Hey,
I can't get over what an albatross to the entire wrestling industry this guy is.
Hey, like the one thing about how they stage their shows, you could have left after the Tamura match.
But Lindemann was on this. Lindemann was after
you would
this.
Yeah. No matter what, we would have had to watch Josh Barnett basically look like a retired, a Inland Empire sheriff.
I was gonna say he looks like a retired police officer.
Yeah, he looks like Josh Homme's shitty friends.
Wow, great poll. I mean, God, he's awful. And I can't, because there's a lot of shoot style guys where it's like, all right, I like the idea of this guy, even if I don't love the execution. I understand the appeal of some of this. There's also, and I feel like I always have to clarify this, there's some shoot style wrestling that I love. Spoiler, it's not UWF Gleat wrestling, but there's some shoot style wrestling that I love. And Josh Barnett has somehow become the spokesperson for this, mind you, dead style of wrestling that has not positively influenced professional wrestling in the 21st century at all. Need I say more?
Hasn't drawn in 40 years.
No. Of course not. Nobody was buying tickets to Peak Evolve to see boring Timothy Thatcher matches. I digress. But I gotta sit through, even if it's 3 minutes, I gotta sit through this asshole on this show. It was horrendous. I never want to see Josh Barnett involved in the world of pro wrestling ever again. And I know he's not going anywhere. And that's the bummer, is that I'm going to keep seeing him retweeting that Catch Wrestling account as another smarmy asshole that runs that. And Josh Barnett's going to keep on acting like he is God's gift to pro wrestling. Again, I fully believe he thinks the 2003 Tokyo Dome number is a real number. And we're just going to have to keep on suffering through it. This put me in such a foul mood, Mike Spears. I couldn't believe what I was watching.
And then we had Shinya Aoki, the Baka survivor, to defeat El Lindemann in El Lindemann's first ever Ledette UWF match. Immediately after El Lindemann lost and Aoki was trying to clear the ring, El Lindemann tried to do a tope suicida on him.
What was that? What was that?
I think he was trying to appeal to Aoki's weirdness.
Okay, well, it didn't appeal to my weirdness. I didn't understand what was happening there at all. Aoki, by the way, is one of those guys where it's like, okay, I get the idea of this. It's never as good as I think it's going to be, but I at least understand the appeal.
And I mean, he was a major star in Japan. Like, one would hope that, and this is like the real indictment of this promotion, one would hope between Shuji Ishikawa, Minoru Tanaka, Octagon Jr., so you're having a new luchador coming in, Kotaro Suzuki, T-Hawk, Tomohiro Yamamura, Kazuyuki Fujita, Kendo Kishen, Quiet Storm, who sells a lot of that. I know that he's someone that sells tickets in certain areas. Kaito Ishida, Shima, Kaz Hayashi, Daisuke Sekimoto was not announced, so I'm not going to blame him on this. Kota Ibushi, Josh Barnett, Shinya Aoki, and El Lindemann would have drawn more than 1,500 people.
It's just awful. And I thought this style, I guess I can lump Lindemann and Nakajima in together. I just thought this style was so restrictive of their overall abilities. And I don't need to see Lindemann perform, a puzzle to wrestle a good match. I know Lindemann's a great wrestler. This is completely uninteresting to me. I have no interest in seeing him pursue this style of wrestling. I guess we're doing Nakajima Lindemann, even though Lindemann lost this match, and I'll watch it because, they're two of my favorite wrestlers, but I mean, God, that would be so much more interesting if it was an All Japan match or a DDT match or just a normal Gleat G-Rex match. They are now doing a fascinating thing where they're combining names that I like and presenting it in a way that I hate, and that just defines this promotion's entire existence.
Yeah, it is really that they throw all these things together, and it does not have any coherence whatsoever. It was a problem with the promotion when it formed out of the husk of Wrestle One, the Ledette backbone that owned Pro Wrestling Noah, and then what other people Shima had attached with him in OWE. It was a question why all these groups came together other than no one wanted to work with them, so they kind of were commonalities there. It made no sense why they made up a promotion then, and 3 years in, Case, I think we could conclusively say this promotion has no coherence whatsoever, and I think it reflects in its box office.
Would you rather watch Josh Barnett wrestle or Sol Ruka?
You see, probably Sol Ruka, because I kind of find I've now reached the point now where I just know that it's just people are going to think doing gymnastics at quarter speed is actual like good lucha rest. We can't help the kids.
I think so little of you, and I know this is mean, but I mean it. Like, I'm deadly serious when I say this. I think so little of you if you're an adult who enjoys NXT, and that is elitist, and I'm gatekeeping to some degree, and it will probably upset some people listening to this. I'm sorry. It's so bad, and the wrestling is so bad, and the people falling all over themselves to praise it makes me angry in a way that I'm trying to think of, like, the decade that I've spent in the wrestling bubble on this level of Voices of Wrestling and reading The Observer and things like that.
Sure.
I don't think anything has ever made me angry in the way that this does. I hate Sol Ruka, and I'm sure she's a lovely lady. I hate her. I hate looking at her. It's so off-putting, and I can't with the springboard 450 lariat that, had it not been presented to me in a tweet that was like, oh my gosh, look at how cool this is, I would have assumed it was a botch. I would have assumed there was no way that she meant to do that, let alone the Ricochet Ospreay stuff, which they're doing at half speed with a quarter of the charisma, with zero of the excitement, and the same people that pan Ricochet and Ospreay are the ones praising this. It drives me insane.
I think we really see now, like, where the and I think Joe has done a really important service, like pointing out how the sausage is made sometimes. We're going to like find out. I feel like that, and it's just going to be just like a simple line item. I would not be surprised. It'd be like, oh yeah, some of these accounts are just like directly getting paid at this point.
Oh my god, yes.
And it's going to be something where a lot of people won't realize it, that they like going, oh yeah, X, Y, and Z. But it's very clear if you're someone who has like had any sort of like marketing or social media training, what's going on with like those accounts at this point. And I just now get more mad at people like retweeting those accounts and getting them like their pennies of Elon bucks at this.
All I'll say is the Performance Center, by the time most people hear this, will have turned 11 years old, and they celebrated by making Ethan Page their world champion. 11 years, and I won't say nothing to show for it because people will say Bianca Belair, and I have no response to that other than fine. But 11 years, and this is what they have to show for it.
After 11 years, you would have someone actually come out and be talented.
You would hope for, dare I say, a Mochizuki Jr. type wrestler.
Absolutely, and let's get into it because this week really was the week of Mochizuki Jr. Coming out first with the big Mochizuki versus Mochizuki match at Korakuen Hall, and then everything coming out of Osaka. And Kays, it's just every single time we think, okay, this kid is nails. He is really showing a level of command far beyond his age. He goes and he just takes the bull by the horns and goes even further. And I'm just at a point now where I had him 5th on my 30 under 30 list. And I really wish I could go like, I have him as my 5th, but I think within like 2 years, he's going to be number 1 on my list.
Let me ask you off the jump. Mochizuki versus Mochizuki. Is this your Dragongate match of the year?
At this point, it kind of has to be. It's either that or do I like this more than Team Noah versus Kung Fu Masters? That's the question.
I still have Doi and Dragon Kid versus Susumu and Yamato as my top pick, and then I would have this number 2.
All right, I think I would have that 3, and it really is between that a Gate Bayside match and this at this point. Because I think I both those at 4 3/4. Yeah.
But I haven't spoken to anybody that's watched this match, and I described it to some because I did my rounds, as I do, not doing Dragongate PR, but people sleep on this promotion, and I sent out the DMs this week of like, hey, be sure you watch this. It's really good, to the usual suspects, the people that have more influence than we do. And I described it as getting low-level match of the year contender buzz, where I don't think by the end of the year anybody will have this match at number 1. I would honestly be very surprised if anybody had this match at number 1. I think a lot of people come year in are going to have this match at 7, have this match at 8, have this match at 9. Maybe it's their 10th vanity pick because it's going to stick out in people's minds towards the end of the year. Dragongate, as I fill out my spreadsheet right now and update it, I've got 40 Dragongate matches at 4 stars or higher this year. I'm going to remember this match more than most of those 40 matches. And so I think this will do very well in match of the year, not because of the high-end votes, but because of the amount of low-end votes, because I haven't talked to anybody that's watched it that has been less than like 4.5 stars on it.
Yeah, it's really, and we're at this point now where you said you had 40 4-star or greater matches in Dragongate this year. We're approaching that for Masaaki Mochizuki and Korakuen Hall at that point.
No kidding.
It's just like you have that, and it feels kind of weird in a way because it's like, is this in? It's clearly like some sort of genetics about this. I mean, one would say that most genetic traits are like physical, right? But I kind of think the kid has his dad's mind about how to put together a match or how to act out his part in a match at the very least coming out of this week.
Well, that'll be the interesting thing is the higher the profile that Junior gets, and he's going to be, escalated up the card very, very quickly, and I think we're going to see him in more big matches in the immediate future, is when does the transition happen between whether it be Kanda or Mochi, or let's even say that, he works a singles match against Susumu or against Casey is probably the better example, where we know definitively those guys are going to be leading him through a match, even if Junior plays his part incredibly well. The curious thing is going to be, obviously, when he wrestles, Fuda and Daiki and guys like that, what his role is. But even wrestling a Strong Machine J, or even wrestling an Ishin or a Ben K, these guys that we recognize as great wrestlers, but maybe aren't the in-ring generals that a Mochizuki or a Casey or a Susumu are. At what point do we see Junior controlling the match with his pacing and his ideologies more so than the other guys? Because even though he's 22 and only 2 years into the business, it feels like we're going to hit a point very quickly where he is just so naturally gifted, and has been since day one, that he is going to kind of slide into that category of ring generals and bypass a lot of guys that might have been around 5-10 years before him.
And I think that a lot of that, in a way, is him. I just don't think this kid is scared of a challenge.
No.
And it, like Jay and Ho-Ho on commentary in this match, you get Jay like bringing up like, oh yeah, no, Mochizuki never had an excursion, so that makes this special that Junior comes back and now there's something to fight for or fight over. And you get Ho-Ho going, that's your dad that you punched. And it just adds together in this wrapper that I think you're absolutely right. Like it in a lot of ways, when you look at like voting for like wrestling things, you will have your runaways. And I feel like this year, the runaways are going to really become clear over the next few months. We'll know like the runaway matches of the year and who is going to be up there. I feel like that we'll probably see like Ospreay, Danielson, and things like that up there. But the thing that this match is going to do is you're going to remember the fact that the finish of this match was a Senkaku Gary countered by a giant knee to the head for a double KO. And it just resonates in a way that I think I have to like point it to his dad and the Mochizuki family. They just have a way of making these matches feel like that they are something more than just what we usually get out of a Korakuen singles match.
The finish was interesting. We haven't really talked about that yet. The double KO finish, I like it. I don't love it. What I would have loved was Junior just beating his dad. I think my head would have blown off. I think I would have given this match 5 stars had Junior won with a clean pinfall. I just wouldn't have been able to control myself. It would have been unbelievable. The double KO, though, I like, because Junior was clearly elevated up the card. I want to talk about that in just a second. But Junior was clearly elevated. But they also left room on the table now for another match. And that is what's most exciting. And I don't know when we'll get that. Who knows if it'll be for the Dreamgate belt? I mean, the possibilities they feel like are endless with Junior.
Yeah.
Given the momentum that he has coming out of this, because he gained momentum, but now, like, I'm ready for match number 2.
And I kind of like the fact that we are left ambiguous with it on where this match number 2 might happen. I mean, who's to say we might go another, like, 6 years and it's Masaaki Mochizuki's retirement match? And they go like, okay, we're doing this again here. And I feel like it just would add a lot more to that. And who's to say now? I mean, King of Gate is a little bit of a question mark this year, but now you line those two up in a tournament, and we don't feel like that we are just being like, there's a track record here. There's a story. It's, is Junior able to actually put his dad down? Is Masaaki Mochizuki going to take his son a little bit more seriously? Like, we have now a track record to build on, and we kind of got like the perfect moment after all of this. Junior shouting in the ring, Benkei sneaking up and essentially abducting Junior into the back right before his own main event match, and we see the father and son have the match, have the moment, and then they're immediately split back apart. I think that was genius.
Yeah, I'm with you. And one of the things that I liked about this show overall was that there was we know half of the August Korakuen card already. There was just a lot of momentum and a lot of things to look forward to. And when I think back on the last few years of Dragongate Korakuen shows, the problem they run into is that sometimes they have a great show, but nothing is set up for the next month. And so you're kind of left, twiddling your thumbs going like, all right, that was awesome. What next? What are we doing here? And Gold Class in particular, and we'll talk about it more when we talk about the Dreamgate picture and what they're doing with Kota Minoura, but there's something happening with Gold Class, and it's going to affect Ben, and it's going to affect Minoura, and it's going to affect Minorita, and it's going to affect Mochizuki Jr., and it won't affect BB Hulk at all, I would assume. So we're just in this spot where a lot of things are going to happen, and I risk letting myself down. But I was talking to somebody about this, in terms of the Minoura stuff, where it's like, I don't know, this August Korakuen feels a little bit different. It feels like that could be a really memorable show for the Angles because they laid so much groundwork on this show, and just specifically with, Ben taking Junior out in Korakuen, and then the Junior Minoura match in Osaka, and then Junior joining Gold Class. I err on the side of I don't think Gold Class is going to exist for much longer, at least in its current state. So I don't care one way or another. I just love that Junior has a unit, and I think the pairings of like a Ben Minorita Junior trios match, I'm super into. So I'm all for it. And so we not only got direct action with Junior joining Gold Class, but there's a ton on the table going forward in the same way that we got direct action with this match with him and Mochizuki, but the finish left so much more on the table. It's exciting to see this many breadcrumbs spread out through the promotion right now.
Right. And I would say, like you brought up the fact that we now have at least the 2 headline matches for the August 1st Korakuen, and they really kind of set this up in a manner case where we don't need to know, like there's going to be some sort of what happens after Benkei and Yamato with that. And then the other title situations can like kind of play into that. I'm saving my bigger Minoura Gold Class thoughts for a moment when we get to it, but I feel like that we have like a hinge point Korakuen that's coming up, and everything is going to be leading up to that in August. Whereas this one was not rearranging deck chairs. I mean, this was the go home. I guess really Osaka, because we got the Dragongate match coming out of Osaka. But
no, this was the go home Korakuen for Kobe World, and you know what? It felt like it.
Right. I mean, like you really had everything, and it feels like that. Like the delineation of what's going to happen in August is going to change a lot of things, I feel.
We left 2 years ago with Kota Minoura shutting the lights out in Korakuen Hall and the most convoluted Dreamgate matchup possible for Kobe World. And this year, Junior gets a unit. Daya and Hyo feel really hot. Ben and Yamato is at the very least interesting because it feels like there's a lot of possibilities. And then you have this Twin Gate picture that is unbelievable, which again, we'll get to. I want to go back to Junior for a second. In terms of his elevation, when I think about the single match performances in Dragongate history that have taken guys from one spot on the card and put them in another spot, I think of both BB Hulk and Shingo at the end of 2005 in their King of Gate match. Now, there's a few different Shingo matches in there. You could point to the 6-man with Taka and Mochi and Susumu versus Shima, and I think it was Yoshino and Shingo in September 2005. That certainly elevated Shingo. That gifted him a Dreamgate match in October of that year. But Shingo and Hulk together had a real coming out party at the end of 2005. I would put Akira Tozawa in 2011, not his direct return to Japan, but Tozawa versus Shingo from World that year where Tozawa went over. I think that really helped establish Tozawa as an actual killer in this promotion. Obviously, Takahiro Yamamura, February 2017, the 20-minute time limit draw versus Shimizu, and then he comes back in the main event and wrestles in that 8-man. Yamamura, his entire career, other than the injuries, has been defined by that night. And then I would also put, and credit to you because you saw this in him before anybody else, but Jackie Funky Kame in October of 2021, the SB Kento Bravegate match from Kobe, not the one in December in Korakuen, which was also great, but the Kobe match, I think those are kind of the matches that when I think about like, oh man, a guy was at this point and now he's so much higher up on the card. And Junior versus Mochi here, this very much applies to Junior as well.
Right, and I think we could kind of talk about the Osaka opener as a result of this.
Yeah, please.
So Junior goes to the double KO with his father. They open Osaka number 2 on the 7th with Kota Minoura and Mochizuki Jr. 15-minute time limit draw. And really, the story of the match was that it was a time limit draw for Minoura, but it felt like in a lot of ways his firepower was like greatly diminished. Like Junior just the crowd was there for the kickouts case, but I feel like everyone in a way was going like, oh, the R301 used to be very special, and now Junior's like hitting a sick ass knee right out of it and things like that. And it just feels like Junior felt clutch and Minoura didn't, and it resulted in a 15-minute time limit draw.
Really interesting match. Really interesting in that I don't remember a ton of Minoura matches where he did limb work that was this intriguing. And talk about the Mochizuki genes. This was an entire match built around the back of Mochizuki Jr. At one point, they're both standing.
The liver punches.
Well, there's the liver punches, and then Minoura at one point, he does an axe handle to Junior in the back, and they're both standing. It looks like something out of a Gene Hackenschmidt match. And it was just like, oh my God, that's so, first of all, that's so Masaaki Mochizuki's kid, but also Minoura in these opening matches, and this is where, and I won't go off on this diatribe again, this is where the lack of YouTube uploads really kills me, because he's been working these opening matches for a month now, and every one of them that I've seen, which unfortunately hasn't been that many, they've all been so interesting. I want more of these. I want to see Minoura wrestle the entire roster in these opening matches because they've all just been really intriguing in the way that he's gone about them. And this Junior match was awesome.
Yeah, he kind of feels like a zombie in a way.
But in like a complimentary way.
Right, and it really, like, the moment where Benkei closes out the show, that's when the angle happens with Junior joining Gold Class, and they challenge Natural Vibes for the Triangle Gate at Kobe World. You had just like looming as a specter, Kota Minoura still like, man, his head was shaved 5 weeks ago, and it still looks like the night, the day after, and he's just like looming over everything. And in the photo, he's not smiling or cheering really; he just kind of exists, and it becomes fascinating. And the way that he works now, he's dropped almost all of the Prince trappings at this point, going back to the old theme. Ben has also, but that's a different story in all of itself. It's fascinating. And I think coming out of Korakuen Hall, where he has another one of these matches, this time against Shuji Kondo, so they open up the show with that, and after what felt like 12 King Kong lariats, Kondo puts him away. Minorita challenges Minoura for this August 1st Korakuen, and it really, like, we are now at this point where I think that's the match to look forward to and what happens next with both him and Gold Class.
I will go on record and say that I think Minoura's turning heel, and I think he's probably turning heel in that Z-Brats versus D-Courage 8-man tag at Korakuen next month. And I worry that they're going to essentially do what they did with Natural Vibes and Strong Machine J to Gold Class as well, where Minoura's no longer going to be in the unit, the founder and the face of this unit. But Ben's going to say, well, we'll continue the Gold Class legacy. And I think that would be a mistake. I think that would be the time. Give him a fresh coat of paint. Ben, Minorita, Hulk, sure, whatever. Junior, and throw in a fifth, throw in a sixth, and have those guys get their own unique branding and go from there. I think that would be a better use of everybody's time. Fuda, maybe, I don't know. I think I'd prefer Daiki just because I don't want Fuda to be around the Mochizukis too much. We know Fuda can do that.
That's a good point. Yeah.
I'd rather see him in Big Hug or just I don't know if he's got a spot. I would rather, if I had the choice, I would go Daiki over Fuda, but nevertheless, I hope they don't turn Minoura and then keep Gold Class. I think that'd be a mistake, but ultimately, Junior has a unit, and it's a unit without his dad, and I think that's a super positive thing.
Yeah, I think I will be the one saying I feel like if it's a heel turn, then we are really going signals up for Dark Masquerade at that point, and that lets you do that Z-Brats refresh.
Yeah, which
But-
is tough because, and sorry to cut you off, but,
Yeah.
this is where, I think the thing you and I both love about Dragongate is that the booking is not obvious. A lot of times we don't see things coming, and I think by
Right.
and large that works to their favor. There's been a few times, especially over the last few years, where I wish Dragongate would do the obvious thing and that they would book a certain match in a certain building just because it's the pro wrestling thing to do more so than the Dragongate thing to do. This is one of those instances with Minoura where the obvious thing right now is that he would go heel. That would make sense given all of this. And I kind of just think that's the right thing to do. I'm struggling to think of any other scenario with him acting the way that he is, doing the things that he's doing, where he's not going to be super dismissive of Minorita and then not turn heel. I'm struggling with that, and I just kind of think that's the best option right now.
I have the answer to that,
Okay.
actually. He's going to go on Excursion.
I could see that. That felt like a real possibility, and I guess I would assume he goes back to the UK.
Right. I think that's what's going to happen.
Because
I
mean, I can send some DMs, but I haven't heard any American promoters that have dates on Minoura.
Yeah, I mean, like, that's the thing about it is, like, do you just go, like, all right, everyone's doing 3 months in the UK. That's what we're going to do with that. But you have him at a point that he's, like, basically been taken down to the struts. I mean, with he actually had more hair when he debuted, which, you know, like, that's kind of a thing. But I think I look back at how they like doing these losing streaks leading to the I need to go and better myself. I need to go away now, and I need to go to Mexico. I need to go to UK, or I need to go study abroad. And then that's what happens. And that's what this kind of losing streak and putting him front and center opening shows makes me.
It's tough. The Minoura thing is tough. I feel like they don't want to give up on this idea of him just being a babyface champion. And I think everyone would be better off if they just leaned into him being a heel and leaned into this idea of, like, he's supposed to be Dreamgate champion. He can't beat Junior in a 15-minute match. And I don't know if him running away from his problems is going to accomplish what they think it's going to accomplish, especially if he, like you said, spends 3 months in the UK and then comes back as a babyface. I'm not, that just prolongs an issue. We have to change course at some point.
That's fair. I mean, at the core of the problem is you have this very talented young man who's somehow, like, he's only 6 years into his wrestling career, which is the wild thing. And in a lot of ways, we kind of, like, sit back and we've seen what's happened over the last few years. And I don't know if it's just really, like, taking him down to that it's the new coat of paint, but, like, the amount of investment that's gone into Kota Minoura, like, really since the year 2020, coming back to live crowds, going back to that, you just have to think that they're going to constantly try things with it. And
I would. Sorry, I'm cutting you off. Go ahead. I'm sorry.
No, I think they're going to try things with him, and he is of an age where, I mean, it would be a late excursion on Dragongate standards, but after everything that's happened, maybe getting someone who's already been an adult over there might be the best course of action.
I feel pretty strongly that whatever they're doing right now is working. I actually think Minoura's had an incredibly successful 2024. The Yamato feud was engaging the entire time, and we saw them, open up the year with it in a non-obvious slow burn kind of way. And I thought they birthed that candle to the bottom in a really efficient way. And the hair match, I thought, delivered. And I love what they're doing with him right now. I look at this chapter of Minoura's career as a success in the same way that outside of this time in 2022, I look at most things he's done as a success. It's one of those uncomfortable truths that you find in pro wrestling where every once in a while, there's a guy that is performing at a certain level and you've just watched enough wrestling and you know a company well enough to know that they want more out of him. And right now, like, that sucks for Minoura because I think this is a really interesting story. And I think they've kind of stuck the landing with him. You know, it's odd. Like, for an entire year post Kobe World 2022, he was just so de-emphasized in a way that was like, all right, let's take the pressure off of him. Let's have everybody forget about Kobe World and the disaster that was. We're going to cycle him down completely. And then he wins King of Gate last year, and the King of Gate tournament itself, I thought, was a massive win for Minoura, and I thought he shook off whatever cobwebs were left from the year prior. It just so happens that Kakuta Dreamgate run was odd, and for whatever reason, despite Minoura having a ton of heat within the tournament, it didn't transfer over to that Dreamgate match. So you take a step back there, but I don't look at Minoura through the lens of like, God, this guy sucked in 2022. He'll never be champion anymore. I look at this as an upper mid-card guy surrounded by contemporaries who are in the main event, but I'm invested in this Minoura story. This might be, for his sake, the most interesting story that he's ever done, because I really don't know where it's going to go. I don't know when it's going to end, but I really like it. And even if it's just him getting his head shaved in June until August, whenever this thing might happen, if it happens in August, it's been a great story. I'm super into it. I don't want to imply that this has been a failure by any means. I find it uncomfortable that it's clear that he's not going anywhere and that Dragongate, as soon as they feel confident enough, they're going to try again. And I'm just not sure that's the right move right now.
Yeah, like that's the aspect that really is the fear. And I don't know if it's residual trauma from the T-Hawk attempts, or if it's like taking the long view and looking that this is a company that pushes people when they're very young, and sometimes it pans out and sometimes it doesn't. I just kind of think that there's so much to him that they're going to keep on trying. And if it's going to be take him down to struts and send him to an excursion, or if it's like he is this presence that is going to eventually snap and then kind of tap into what he should have been for a while and then being a full-fledged heel, I think that it's interesting. It makes the overall course of Kota Minoura, I feel like over the last 4 years, it's going to have more bumps and twists and turns, and it's interesting. I do wish we were able to see those other openers as well. Gold Class, who thought that the summer 2024, everything leading into Kobe World would be about Gold Class?
I certainly did not have that on my list of predictions. I'll pull up the Korakuen card. I'll have you go over the Korakuen results in just a second. I'll end with this on Minoura as I give you a time to pull that give you a second to pull that card up. We'll save most of our Kobe World predictions for next week, obviously, because we're going to do a preview show next week. But if you told me Dangerous Gate, which is in August this year, it's in mid-August. If you told me Dangerous Gate was Open the Twin Gate champions, Jason Lee and Shun Skywalker versus X, and then Open the Dreamgate championship was Yamato versus heel Kota Minoura, with heel Kota Minoura winning the Dreamgate belt, I am very open to that in theory. But that involves my longer thoughts on the Twin Gate division, and also the fact that I have no idea what they're doing with the Dreamgate belt, but it feels like heel Coach Minoura might be the vehicle to something greater for that title.
Yeah, and I mean, he certainly has gravitated around that belt over the last 24 months, so it'd make a load of sense there. So going through the Korakuen Hall show, again, this was on last Friday, the 5th. Opened with Kota Minoura versus Shuji Kondo. Shuji Kondo wins with a King Kong Lariat in 8-12. Susumu Yokosuka and Kagetora, it's the original Jimmys. They teamed up at going up against Z-Brats, Kai, and Ishin. Ishin wins with a pinfall immediately after a low blow. Ishin being a real baddie this weekend. 2 direct interference or DQ wood things going into his wins. Match 3, we had Ultimo Dragon, BB Hulk, Minorita, and Ryo Fuda versus Yasushi Kanda, Toru Owashi, Punch Tominaga, and Daiki Yanagiuchi. It was the Minori Tanic on Daiki in 8 minutes and 34 seconds. Real highlight here again. I know you wrote about this in your review, but Minorita and Toru Owashi, we need to have that happen a lot more because those two guys have it together, and it's really fun. Match 4, we had Natural Vibes, the Open the Dragongate champion team. Strong Machine J, Big Boss Shimizu, and UT go up against Madoka Kakuta, Ryoya Tanaka, and pitch hitting La Estrella. It was UT with the Bien Llave Perfecto, which is the variant where he starts tying up your legs as well. He locked that onto Estrella there, showing what true Llaveo can do. Towards the Kobe Pro Wrestling Festival Twin Gate special 8-man lottery tag team match. They drew these in the opener. The sides were Paradox, No Hug, DK, and Enruki Doi, with teaming with Shun Skywalker and Jason Lee of Z-Brat, seeming like that they were in agreement going up against KZ Flamita, Louise Monte, and Jackie Kamei. It was Kamei with the Doi Bible jackknife on Dragon Kid there. We talked a lot about Mochizuki contra Mochizuki. It was a double KO time, 16 minutes for that draw. And then the main event towards the Kobe Pro Wrestling Festival, Dreamgate, Bravegate, double title prelude special tag team match. Class of 2016 reunites Benkei and Hio. The Dream and Bravegate champions go up against Yamato and Dragon Dia. Dia gets the win over Hio with a counter out of the Samson driver. Other big things happening on this Korakuen Hall show. We've somehow gone an hour without mentioning Yuki Yoshioka came out, gave a health update. He's back on the mend. He has had his last retina surgery. He's not coming back anytime soon. Like, it's still going to be a while, but he is going to be supporting Dia at Kobe World. And then also after all of this was happening, when Yuki Yoshioka came out, that sent Shun Skywalker into basically like an apoplectic meltdown. They set up a 8-man tag team match, Z-Brats versus D-Courage, but he did not realize or would not acknowledge that Yuki Yoshioka would not be facing him on August 1st. Instead, Dragon Dia called in a favor, and Ryusuke Taguchi is teaming up with D-Courage in an elimination tag against Z-Brats on that August 1st Korakuen Hall show. I feel like we're going to be in for a lot of butt stuff between Taguchi and Kakuta in the lead up to that.
That is true. That is undeniable. That will happen. Maybe I'm drinking the Kool-Aid. Maybe I'm foolish. I'm bizarrely excited about Taguchi being in that match. I think that could be really, really fun.
Yeah, I think that's gonna be fun. Like, just like the theme music playing for him and him coming out, and just like Kai and Ishin being on the other side of the ring just really makes me happy. Yeah,
that's the thing. Like, if we get 75% serious Taguchi, that's a super interesting dynamic. Him with all of those guys, him with Shun, him with Kai, who I'm fully stealing this talking point from somebody else, but somebody noted, like, you know, Taguchi and Kai came into wrestling around the same time, and at one point were very highly thought of juniors within their own system. So that's an interesting matchup there. Ishin is doing great work, and you know, Jason and Taguchi, I have no doubt that'll be great. So that's a really interesting looking match. And I also, and maybe Mike, you can think of something that I can't, but I had a really hard time finding Dragongate interactions with Taguchi. The main one that I came away with was an untelevised Super Juniors match from 2007 that was Taguchi versus BB Hulk on a show that featured Minoru Tanaka versus Tetsuya Naito and main event Milano Collection versus Tiger Mask, Taguchi versus Hulk sandwiched in between those.
Man, I'm intrigued by that Naito match.
I'm intrigued by that Milano match. I ran through Milano's cage match today and found some stuff there that I was like, oh, that's a shame. That's not anywhere, because I would really like to see some of these matches.
I wonder what sent you on that case.
Well, yes. And then you know what was funny is you sent me on that because we were talking about whether or not Milano ever worked a WWE Dark match, which I don't think he did. There's at least no record of it on Cage Match. But then I saw that Milano worked a K Dojo show in 2008 in his hometown because it was in Iwate. And I was like, oh, God, that match sounds awesome. Imagine, even at that point, older, fatter Milano showing up in K Dojo, the star that he would have been. Oh, man, I really want to see that.
Yeah, the man loved Pringles, and he discovered that when he left Dragongate and did his wilderness wandering. I could have swore that I remember seeing like a 2006 Observer that said he had a tryout. Like
I look, if anybody knows, please let us know. There's no record of anything on Cage Match, but that doesn't mean that he didn't have a tryout at some point.
Yeah, I mean, we just got to see if we're going to get that Shima versus Jamie Noble matchup.
I want it so badly. I really, really want that footage. And obviously Mystico versus Dean Malenko, but I want Shima and Jamie Noble more than that. Let's talk about the main event from this show and kind of work our way back down, if that's okay with you.
Absolutely. So we had the double prelude, class of 2016, Benkei and Hyo versus Yamato and Dragon Dia. I thought this rocked. I am so into the Bravegate right now. And the idea, like, coming out of this weekend, and really Hyo versus Dia right now, like, sending Dia to the best of the Super Junior might have been the best thing that could have ever happened to this guy, because it feels like he's even, like, the crowd are even hotter for Dia than they were at the start of 2022 for him.
It definitely helped his perception within his own promotion, which is the reason that you do that. You know, it doesn't matter that he won one match. You know, he's not a New Japan wrestler. It's okay. He is now more important within the confines of Dragongate than he was before that tournament. It's funny you picked up on Dia, because I was thinking about how 2 years ago, you know, it was Dia versus Hyo for the Bravegate belt at World that year, and Hyo was in Z-Brats and Dia was still in D-Courage at that point. And I started thinking about the difference between those two matches, and then I watched the Korakuen match, and my takeaway was, oh, Hyo is just so much better now than he was then. And we really liked Hyo. We've liked Hyo his entire career. We really liked him in 2022, but he was doing a very character-heavy act at that point. And now this is like work rate Hyo. This is the hardest he's ever wrestled, and I think their chemistry is off the charts right now.
Yeah, it's going to be fascinating, the idea of Hyo going up against a stronger face that will be fighting from underneath.
Mm-hmm.
I'm fascinated by that. Him and Ben's teamwork always kind of kicks up, and it's nice to kind of see them together. Yamato teaming with Dia was kind of interesting. A big thing that I felt like we got to see here that we didn't get to see much in June is how Ben has changed as Dreamgate champion, because essentially we got the Hakata double shot right after he won the Dreamgate, and then they went dark essentially for the month. And he has dropped a lot of the Chiki Sensei trappings. He still has the gear, but he's now no longer coming out with Cuban link chains, no bananas, no beatbox entrance. He's gone back to the original form, and the crowd's kind of responding to him taking things seriously, it feels like.
Well, everything in regards to the Dreamgate belt right now is very safe. And I think that's an okay position to be in, because when you go back throughout the last few years, our big complaint has been that they've made the Dreamgate title scene, especially in July at Kobe World, they've made it far too complicated. Last year, Kakuta was hot when he won the belt, and they immediately put him in this program with Yoshioka, where I thought, well, okay, Yoshioka is going to lean heel in this program, and then he might fully turn heel afterwards. And instead, they did this awkward, cold babyface versus babyface thing. It hurt both guys. It really, really hurt Kakuta's momentum going forward. You go to the year before that, it's the Kota Minoura stuff. It's been talked about a million times. No one came out of that looking okay. The year before that, it's the end of Shun's tremendous Dreamgate title run, but it was still the two Dreamgate matches, one against KZ and then the winner of that against Yamato, and that wasn't very satisfying booking, and that felt contrived, and that felt forced, and it wasn't very satisfying, even if the matches, both of them, were absolutely incredible. It just wasn't what we really wanted. And then the year before that was COVID, where Kobe World was a week and a half after Gate of Destiny, so they do Eita versus KZ at Gate of Destiny, Shun Skywalker returns, a week and a half later, he's Dreamgate champion. You have to go back 5 full years, oddly enough, to when Ben beat Pac, to where I feel like they've had a Dreamgate build for World that is as stable as this one. Now, Ben versus Pac was inherently more exciting than this one was, but I think they've done a good job. They have told a 7-month-long story with Yamato against Gold Class and the Reiwa generation. Ben fits into both of those parties. Ben is a competent, albeit not a world beater Dreamgate champion. Everything here makes sense. And that is all I've asked for the last few years from the Dreamgate championship title picture is let's slow things down and let's not get too cute. And this year, they've gone in the opposite direction. They've gone painfully simple. But you know what? Painfully simple is kind of working for me right now.
I think that, especially with the idea that this is an anniversary year, having the sensical match makes sense. Having Yamato back in the Dreamgate picture after taking the year back and then deciding what Dragongate needs is now more Yamato at the 25th anniversary, it works. And it is a Ben-K who has a command on the microphone that is not just him doing bits at this point, which I think is a huge thing where we've seen Yamato, and I mean, that's been the whole story with him and Minoura, was just like him essentially putting the kid into the dirt every way possible, including on the microphone. That's not happening with Ben at this point. And I think with that, like you talk about it being like stable, I think when you kind of look at the Kobe World Card and with what they're trying to do for an anniversary year, and given where everything is kind of at, we look at this Kobe World Show, and we'll get more into this on the next episode. But Case, we have the full card, and this is Dragongate saying we're going Dragongate first with this. We're not bringing people in here. And if you're going Dragongate first, this is the biggest match possible. And is the biggest match also the safest match? Yeah, but sometimes that happens that way. And when that happens, you sure as hell go with that match. And you're like, you feel more confident about it because you know it's the safe choice. And I think that with how everything has been with the taping schedule as well, you're not feeling like, oh God, there should be some level of buildup there. Like that was the thing about Yoshioka versus Kakuta. We were waiting for the angle to happen. And
my God, were we?
We were, and essentially we're having a similar situation where there's like no big sparking in action. It's just like, I am Yamato. I've been the face of this place for the last decade, and I think it's my time again. And that's all you need to do.
And that didn't come out of nowhere. You know, it all ties into the Minoura stuff that's been going on all year, and it ties into a lot of Yamato's verbiage from last year in regards to, you know, Shun and Yoshioka and Ben and Minoura and the rest of the Reiwa guys. This is all a long-term story that it will never boil up. You know, they have just been letting this simmer now for about 9 or 10 months, and it all works. Again, it's not the most exciting build they've ever done, but it's inherently logical and it's mildly interesting. And yeah, I mean, it's, you know, I would argue maybe Shun versus Yamato or Shun versus Ben, but this is undoubtedly one of the 3 or, you know, at worst, one of the 5 biggest matches you have. And I think it's very interesting. You know, I was told from within the company last year, because they were very happy with the Kobe World attendance last year. But that was with the cage match and that was with Hiromu. And what I was told was, you know, maybe next year they don't do a gimmick match, but they have an outsider. And then the year after that, they hope they can draw that same number without the outsider and without the gimmick match. And whether it's the Lek money drying up or whether it's confidence in this match and the momentum that they have, there's no big gimmick match outside of maybe the Twin Gate match, which would certainly get my ass into the building if I was living anywhere in Japan. And then there's no real special guest. You know, they are going Dragongate forward, and I feel like this is going to be a hot show. I look at all of the title matches they've laid out, plus Kakuta versus Minoura, and I just can't imagine a ticket buying crowd not being really invested in all of those matches. And we can put a pin in this, but I feel like Ben and Yamato is really up in the air. I think it's a really interesting Dreamgate match, and it's one of those where no matter what happens, my big concern leaving Kobe World almost every year is, okay, if they crown a new Dreamgate champion, where does that guy go from here? Dragongate's really good at getting the title on guys and not very good at getting them a first successful defense in a way that maintains their momentum. I think with either result this year, they have direct and immediate opponents they can go to hopefully stay hot.
Yeah, and I think you look at where everyone is at in the promotion, and there's not going to be a lot that you have to do to heat up those opponents, really, when you look at it. Like, both sides, like, we're probably in time for a Kai challenge, too. You know, like, there's people that they just haven't had because they've been giving people first-time shots over the last 18 months that now you're able to go back to Kai. You're able to, like, I mean, KZ is a dangerous kind of situation just for kind of perception gaps, I feel like. But you go back to KZ with either side. And I feel like with how they've really set up things over the last 5 years, as you laid it out, there just was not those options immediately after.
No. I mean, you've got KZ. I feel like I'm the biggest Kai defender. I don't know if I would love a Kai Dreamgate match at this point, but you've got KZ, you've got Kai, you've got Strong Machine J, who feels like he's on the cusp of maybe doing something. You've got Yoshioka. When he comes back, that's going to be an option. Minoura is obviously the one staring everybody in the face. There's maybe Mochizuki Sr., maybe if we play our cards right by Final Gate, Mochizuki Jr., and then you have, obviously your Shuns and whoever else that are going to be built in title. Yeah. So there's guys there. Look, it's an exciting time, and I really, really enjoyed the main event. I went 4 stars on the dot on that one, and I would recommend everybody go watch it if they haven't seen it.
Yep, I was 4 as well. 4 3/4 on the semifinal. Let's talk about this Atomicos match.
Good Lord, this match.
Yeah, we had Big Hug, KZ, and Flamita of Natural Vibes defeating Paradox, Dragon Kid, Naruki Doi, Z-Brats, Jason Lee, and Shun Skywalker. Kamei getting the pin on Kid. And they've really had a fun way of building up this Twin Gate match of going like, hey guys, look at all the combinations we're going to have in the ring with each other, between doing an Atomicos here, doing a 4-way in Osaka. They did another 4-way in Aichi the next day. They've really have been feeling the space of what you can do with a 4-way Twin Gate match.
I can't wait for this. I mean, I wrote this in my review. I'll say it again here. My expectation for this match is match of the year contender. And if it's not that, it's a disappointment. And 2 years ago, I came on this show and said that about Shun and Diamante versus Kame and Jason, and talked about how it's really unfair to them and it's wrong to have an expectation like that for a match. And then they have one of the greatest tag team matches of all time. And so I'm right back in that spot where it's unfair to them, but this has all of the potential to be one of the greatest Dragongate matches of all time by the time we're done with it. It feels like it's heading in that direction.
And it's the result of really basing the division around 4 people dating back to that 2022. I mean, the Twin Gates, yes, they have had the Susumu Kanda Miracle Run last year, but more often than not, when you looked at Twin Gate matches, you would find some combination of Jackie Kamei, Jason Lee, Shun Skywalker, and Monte with them. And that's not to mention like KZ having his run of UT as well. And Shimizu, right? Yeah, big time. And that's not to forget that the champion team are Dragon Kid and Naruki Doi teaming really for the first time, considering their tag team legacies as well. And it's difficult with these kind of situations. It's the thing where if we were a charge of the Dragongate sportsbook, like the prop bet would be like, what is the acclamation match of the night? Oh yeah, you have to put down 11 to get back 9 if you're going to put the Twin Gate match, right? Like, but we've seen that 4 of these guys fulfill that before, and everything coming out of this match. I mean, now we have the fact that Kamei and Monte have the most unique offense in wrestling case, and that Monte will just throw Kamei at people, and it's amazing. This is what Claudio Castagnoli does with Wheeler Yuta, but it's 100 times more interesting because they're actually someone with personality getting thrown at someone.
Yeah, look, I'm right there with you. I mean, I hope. And we don't have the rules for this match, do we? We don't know if it's elimination yet.
I was gonna ask you, that's my one thing that makes me hesitant to go all right, I right now have in pencil this as my Dragon Gate match of the year. Prove me wrong. Is the fact that is this going to be one fall to the finish, or if it's going to be elimination? Case, we might find out that before the end of the next episode that we do.
Yeah,
together.
we'll have Jay on next week, and we'll
Yeah.
clarify that, because the hope is that it's an elimination match where Vibes gets bounced and Dragongate and Doi get bounced, and we're left with the match that I really want eventually to headline a Korakuen show, because I think it would truly, truly belong in that building. But the inverse of the 2022 Twin Gate match, where it's now Monte and Kame versus Shun and Jason, rather than Jason and Kame versus Shun and Monte.
Yeah, but it's I can't remember a time going into Kobe World where I am at like a 7 or higher anticipation level on all 4 belt matches.
Oh, right. Like, okay, I'm glad you said that, because I started to think maybe I was crazy, but I'm super into this show.
Case, I was so bummed over the last month, and we don't need to go through YouTube stuff again. Like, we've talked about that. Like, it's dead. We can't do anything about that. But like, I was just like, man, I went to like, we found like our content. We were able to do that. But I was like, I want to be getting into Kobe mode. I want to get in Kobe World mode. And then by the end of this weekend, and we really haven't even talked about the Osaka show yet. We have 4 great title matches. The rest of the card, we have Kota Minoura versus Madoka Kakuta opening up Kobe World. That will be free for everyone on YouTube. And just up and down.
And Super Shisa's there.
And Super Shisa's there, and he's been training with folks.
Yeah, and he's with Chalkball Kobe, who literally hasn't been seen in 23 years.
Yeah, and Shisa's not tweeting right now.
Well, he's at least tweeting about his cat if he's going to tweet.
Yeah, no,
he's
that is
got
fair.
some, Shisa's got some nationalistic opinions that I'm not sure Mike and I co-sign, but we love him as a wrestler.
I mean, there's another top 5 wrestler that has that too, man.
Yeah, there's a few of them, I think. I'm glad you said that. You stole my thunder, but I'm glad you did on the re-imaging and reimagining rather of this Twin Gate division, because I remember talking to you a few years ago, probably 2021 even, where I was frustrated because even though we were getting good matches out of the Twin Gate division, it was Yamato and it was BB Hulk and it was Kai, and it felt like it was always one of those 3 guys involved. And then it was, Kazuma Sakamoto getting involved, and, Yoshida was in the mix for a time period. And the Twin Gate division, to me, is like the highest form of wrestling there is. And even though Dragongate was, having great matches and having okay years at that point, I wasn't getting what I wanted out of the Twin Gate division. And when you look at the last 2 years, again, starting with Kung Fu Masters versus Shun and Monte, they've now completely revamped the Twin Gate scene in a way that is, what I want. It's the D-Courage teams. It's Shimizu and Casey, who had that crazy underrated Twin Gate run. It's, Shun and Monte are now Shun and Jason. It's the Dragon Kid, Naruki Doi work. Even the Kanda Susumu stuff, was it a fast-paced junior heavyweight wrestling? No, it was not. But it wasn't Kai and Yamato, and it wasn't Kai and BB Hulk. And no hate to them, but that's just not what I want out of the Twin Gate scene. You and I, more so than literally anybody else on earth, loved that Susumu and Kanda Twin Gate run. So that worked for us. But what we're getting here is 2 years of hard work and 2 years of dedication towards this division. It's all coming to fruition here. And Flamita's red hot, and KZ's doing great work, and you've got the interesting Big Hug Z-Brats dynamic, and then you have this great Twin Gate team in Doi and Dragon Kid. There's no wrong answer as to who should win this match, but Mike, can I make a plea, even a week early? I know we're not really supposed to do predictions here, but can I make a plea to you for Dragon Gate to change course and change history in the way they normally book Twin Gate teams?
What would you propose?
Can you tell me, I'll throw this back to you for a second,
Okay.
the top 4, because I think you can get top 3 pretty easily. Can you tell me the top 4 longest Twin Gate runs in history?
Okay, CK1's the longest.
Yes, they are. 397 days. And ended with a vacated title, which will always be funny to me.
Yeah.
But it was Dragon Kid that got hurt, not Shima. I believe Dragon Kid was hurt, but it's just very funny.
Yeah. Yamadoi.
Yep, 2015 to 2016, 267 days.
I think the one that I know a time ago was on this list, but I'm not positive they are anymore. Shingo and Akira.
Nailed it. That's your top 3. That was 210 days. What's the 4th longest Twin Gate reign in history? There's a point to this.
Was it a Ryosuke team?
It was not. They were very close.
Dang, was that number 5?
Kineska was number 5, actually. Ryosuke was top 10.
Okay.
Number 4.
I knew I should have went Kineska.
Number 4 is the 2020 team of BB Hulk and Kazuma Sakamoto at 200 days exactly.
Is that fair, though?
This is my point. So they won the titles in January.
Right.
They went to a no contest on March 1st, Champion Gate, and then lost the titles on August 2nd at that Memorial Gate show that had Doi versus Eita on it.
Yeah, didn't they lose it to Lee and Minoura?
They did. And then I think Jason was sick for World that year and they lost the belts. I don't remember if Jason was sick or Minoura was sick, but one of them had COVID-like symptoms. I make this point because I keep on having this feeling in Dragon Gate that the one thing that they're kind of missing is this really dominant title reign. And that's not something they do a ton of. One could make an argument they're doing it with Hyo and the Brave Gate belt right now. I don't look at Hyo as a dominant champion. He's got a bunch of defenses. He's had a few very good matches. He's not dominant. That's not the vibe that I'm looking for here.
There's a difference from where he's at and where Ricochet and Pac and Flamita were.
Yes, and the vibe that Hyo brings is different than the Yamadoi vibe. It's different than the CK1 vibe. It's different than the Monster Express vibe. But when you start to go through historically the Twin Gate runs, Twin Gate reigns are just not very long. And I just can't help but feel like there is money and intrigue in Shun and Jason basically playing this generation's version of Yamadoi and giving them 8 months of defenses. They should be defending the belts at Champion Gate next year, and they should probably win at Champion Gate. It's that level of reign that I'm looking for. It's that level of intrigue that I want, and it's the one thing that I feel has really been missing, let's say since 2021 in Dragon Gate, is just some sort of dominant title run.
And I would argue, Case, that you do that, you also get Shun away from the Dream Gate for a while.
Which is huge, which is absolutely huge, because now he could be second from the top on these shows, but is inherently not a distraction if your Dream Gate reign isn't going according to plan. Because the hard part when you're Open the Dream Gate champion is not Shun Skywalker, is that you can't help but feel like Shun Skywalker should be your Open the Dream Gate champion.
I mean, it just ends up being something where, at least for me, that 30 for 30 list, the day that Shun Skywalker is not number one is the day that he turns 30.
Yes.
Like, he just has that kind of role right now.
And we've got one more year of him before he's 30, so he'll be our number one next year, unless it's Mochizuki Jr.
Yeah, I mean, like, hey, that it's, we're not doing like GWE and stuff like that right now, but I feel a lot more certain about that than my Terry Funk number one position right now.
That is very confident in Shun Skywalker. I'm sure Shun would appreciate to hear that.
Hey, I mean, sometimes that is what you get with him. Looking at the rest of the Korakuen show, any other big notes you wanted to touch on the undercard, really?
Yes. I really enjoyed I guess we mentioned it, but let me note real quick on La Estrella. One, thought Estrella looked very good for La Estrella standards in that match.
Yeah, he was fine.
I talked to somebody that was at the show. They asked me beforehand, they go, "Hey, I'm going to Korakuen, is there anything you want me to look for? Anything you want me to send back to you?" And all I said was, I love it when I get a merch update. If you could send me just the t-shirts you see a lot of, that'd be greatly appreciated. And I get this DM right before Korakuen starts, and all it says is, "I just saw somebody outside in a La Estrella t-shirt." I don't know why that was funny to me. It was just very funny to me that we had to note the one guy in Korakuen wearing the La Estrella shirt. Otherwise, it was Dragon Kid, Naruki Doi, and Big Hug were kind of the three that were marked to me as like, oh, there's a lot of their merch in the crowd. I liked Estrella. I'm sure he's going away after Kobe World. I know Flamita is going away after Kobe World. There's a chance maybe he flies home and then comes back in early August, but I know Flamita is slated to go home July 22nd or 23rd right now. So keep that in mind. They'll probably be on the same flight back to Mexico. And then, like you said earlier, really, really enjoyed the chemistry between Minorita and Toru Owashi. And as we approach Kobe World Season, as we're here now, and other outlets whom I respect and enjoy start talking about Dragongate again, don't let them win by slandering net positive Toru Owashi. He has been fine, if not good, in this company this year, and I don't want to hear it from people that don't watch every show.
Yeah, I mean, he's just, the most annoying thing about Toru Owashi on a Dragon Gate show is the fact that it's another thing where you have to fast forward 30 seconds because you don't have his entrance theme.
Yes. Yeah, I mean, I don't know. He had one great match in Rey de Parejas. He's been very fun in literally almost everything he's done in the company this year. And
he's not even on the Kobe World card.
He's not even on the Kobe World card. You're right.
Yeah.
I just, this year has made me go, maybe we need to reevaluate Owashi's career and remove the DDT comedy stuff from it. I think if you take that out, he's a way better wrestler than we've given him credit for.
Yeah, no, I feel like this case, and really, whenever I see him paired up against Minorita, and it's a show that makes tape, I know that, at least for me, I'm going to be in for a great time. Overall, talking about Osaka, fun, big show, kind of felt like the big blow off for Osaka. At least we talked about Gold Class with Mochizuki Jr. Do you want me to run down the card real quick?
Yeah, please. I should note just real quick, this was a super quick show. It really flew by. Yeah, so watch. I mean, we'll talk about it, but this was a very good show.
Yeah, and it opened with that Minoura versus Junior 15-minute time limit draw, and then outside of that, that was the longest match on the show. Like nothing else was longer than the 15-minute time limit draw. You had Yamato, Dragongate, Tsumi, Yokosuka, and Kagatora. They're Paradox. They went up against the unaffiliated team of Ultimo, Ginki, Kanda, and Estrella. You had Yamato pinning Fuda. Oh, the results I am reading actually did not have Ryu Fuda was in on that match there. I'm trying to use your new result page that you had for that. Let me pull up the different one there. So that was actually Ginki, Fuda, Kanda, and Ultimo, not La Estrella. You had Flamita defeat Ryoya Tanaka in a special singles match. Z-Brats, Ishin, Kai, Shun Skywalker defeat what I'm calling Dad Orchestra, Don Fuji, Takashi Yoshida, and Toru Owashi. It was a cookie sheet playing into the fall for Ishin. Big Hug, original Hyo and Luis Monte defeat Dragon Daya and Madoka Kakuta. This time, Hyo gets the fall on Daya, getting the win back from Korakuen Hall. Naruki Doi versus KZ versus Jackie Kamei versus Jason Lee. This was the Twin Gate 4-way preview match. You had Doi on and this one over Kamei, and then in the main event you had Benkei, BB Hulk, Minorita versus the champion Triangle Gate team, Strong Machine J, Big Boss Shimizu, and UT. It was Benkei over Shimizu with a spear, and Benkei then made the challenge for Gold Class for the Triangle Gate belts and announced Mochizuki Jr. as that new member there.
Very good show. I thought Korakuen was possibly the best Korakuen of the entire year for Dragongate. I would watch that entire show start to finish. I would say the same with this Osaka show. I don't think I went notebook on anything. I came very close on the 4-way match, but I didn't go notebook on anything. But the entire show was fun. And I kind of want to start because we kind of talked about Minoura versus Junior. I don't think there's anything to say on the 8-man. I won't get into a whole thing because I know we're going long. But to go back to our Sol Ruka conversation from earlier, part of the reason it annoys me so much is that matches like Flamita versus Ryoya Tanaka exist. And they're just so cool. Better in every conceivable way.
Yeah, 7 minutes. I was 3.5 stars on this, by the way.
As was I.
you had Flamita basing for Ryoya Tanaka is like a cool feeling. Like, and it was just like a fun match. Flamita gets the win with a 450 here. Tanaka looks really strong in this, and it's just kind of wild, like the idea that Flamita is at this point in a career where now the young prospects are kind of firing off against.
He's awesome. I mean, this whole Flamita comeback has been such a feel-good story, and it's not only just one of those nice things emotionally, but Flamita, I don't know, is he doing the best work of his career? There's certainly an argument to be made. You know, we'll see what he does at Kobe World, but if he's the star of that match, then I would put this 2 months in 2024, May through July, up against anything he did in 2014, you know, anything he did as Demonic Flamita. I think we're witnessing the best version of Flamita right now.
Yeah, and I think we kind of got to see, like, Demonic Flamita as a Rudo. He was not, like, a real vetty Rudo. He wasn't, like, being, like, a veteran, like, just, like, kind of putting people in their place. You got a little bit of that with him and Tanaka, and it makes me think that Flamita, as he gets older, is going to be a real fun older wrestler, too.
Yeah, and Tanaka, for being a year and a few months into the industry, he's so crisp. He's never in the wrong spot. And when you look at his offense, it's weird. Like, the one thing he doesn't do perfectly is that lion salt, because it always looks like he's going to kill himself right before he lands. Otherwise, like, his dives to the floor, and then it's just his little transitions, his little bit of offense here and there. It all looks perfect. That guy is going to be so good. So good.
Yeah, and I've not watched his work in Ryukyu. There's someone suspiciously with his body type by the name of Orion down there.
Oh,
right
interesting.
now.
I did not know that.
Yeah, but I think that he just won the Twin Rio title. But I think he's really, like, getting the ring time, and the fact that, like, they were always a little up on him in a comparison to other rookies sometimes, and he's just, I don't think he's had a step wrong over the last really 13 months.
No,
I
would agree with that.
We're still, like, tackling the reality that he's still, like, less than 15 months in his career at this point.
Yeah, he's a child. He's a child, both in terms of age, he's 25, and in terms of experience. And I think he's fantastic. You know, I can't wait to see what he's like by the time he's 30.
Absolutely. Big Hug versus Kakuta and Daya. I had the weird feeling in this match that I'm so in on this Bravegate match, and the crowd in Osaka was one of the louder crowds I felt like that they've had in a while.
I agree.
And I had moments where I was like, Kakuta Monte, get out of the way. I want to watch more Daya and Hyo.
That's really funny, because my thought was, man, Kakuta and Monte have really good chemistry. It's a shame the Dreamgate thing happened between them the way that it did, because they looked really good together.
We haven't talked about Kakuta's perm. Kakuta's perm is great, and I think it's giving him more confidence. That's why. He didn't have the perm before when he was Dreamgate champion.
that could be it.
I'm just thinking for stuff there, but yeah, no.
No, it's very funny.
And what do you think of the 4-way?
I loved it. I almost went notebook on it.
Same. I was 3 3/4. Getting, like, a whoopee cushion cut back as the finish was kind of neat. On the Big Hug match, like, the one thing that kind of, like, also a little bit put me back with this is they needed to tell Hyo just to stick with cutters and stuff like this, because he did, like, that weird tilt-a-whirl slam finish that looked like he almost, like, broke Daya's neck.
I like the tilt-a-whirl slam because I wasn't expecting it, and so it really made me jump out of my chair when I saw it.
Yeah, we had like oh fuck, this looked bad.
That's the only problem, is that it kind of looks like he botches the suplex aspect of it.
Right, yeah, like that's what I'm saying. Like, I don't know if I want him to do this anymore. It looks like that he is actually causing a whole lot of damage.
Yeah, no, absolutely. No, I like that far more than I like the Samson driver. But going back to the 4-way here, God, like, Jason Lee. This was, for a while, this was the Jason Lee show. And then I thought he took a step backwards last year. I think part of it was he was figuring out how to work with all the added weight that he put on. Maybe that's true,
Sure.
Maybe it's not. But man, he hit the ground running with this heel character in a way that I thought incredibly highly of him to begin with. I wasn't expecting the heel character to be down pat by day one. And that's what it's been. And it's only gotten better since then.
Yeah, no, and it's such a good compliment to Shun, and I think like giving them, like as you're talking about them getting a run, it's such like great singular heel character, but I feel like it's complementary in a way that works out real well with it. Doi was a lot of ever since Doi has become Mr. Saito, he's been like pointing to his head and he's been a lot of fun lately. I feel
he's the most enjoyable wrestler in wrestling right now. He's not the best, it's Danielson, Ospreay, and either Shun or Kame, depending on when you ask me. But in terms of, the Marie Kondo, which wrestler sparks the most joy, it's Naruki Doi number one with a bullet right now.
Yeah. I wonder if there's a way that we might be able to get the Saito twins in.
I was thinking about that. I would like to see that.
I mean, would Dragongate actually be able to get a fall back and do one better than Gleat there, though?
Yeah, I mean, I think so. And then you think it's like, okay, so you do what, Doi and the Saitos versus Shun, Kai, and Ishin. That feels like the appropriate matchup there. I would worry they'd get Yoshida involved. That doesn't seem like it'd be the right thing to do. You'd want to use the heel powerhouses there. I would really like to see that by the end of the year.
I think that Yoshida can continue teaming with Don Fuji and Toru Owashi as that orchestra, because that was like the most like as much as I've enjoyed Toru Owashi here, I was like, okay, Toru Owashi, you're getting your show off here. Like that was a nice thing to see.
Very much so. No, this was, I mean, top to bottom. I didn't love the main event. I didn't think it was bad. It just never really grabbed me as anything special. But top to bottom, man, I thought this was another really, really good show.
Yeah, I wanted to ask you after this. So we've now seen essentially just under 2 months of Minorita's comeback.
Yeah.
We didn't have this on their run sheet. It was something that we that's kind of popping my head right now. Just temperature check. Like he came back and we were like, okay, he's going to kind of play his way into it. Where do you feel like he is now that he's essentially 2 months back after a pretty devastating knee injury?
I'm glad you asked that. That's kind of my last note I had here. Some wrestlers get hurt and they remain at the top of our minds, right? Like Bandito has been hurt for a year, but I know Bandito's a great wrestler and I know he's going to be great when he comes back. Minorita essentially got hurt at the top of his buzz at that point in his career. And the longer he was gone, the more I wondered if his reputation was going to maintain. And then he got off to a little bit of a slow start. Wasn't bad, just, wasn't electric. I have in my notes here for the Osaka show, man, Minorita's really great. Like this guy is a great wrestler. And
he's fun.
He's just fun, but he's above that. He is actually a great pro wrestler who has obviously made the most of this character when everybody thought it was a death sentence. And now, you look at a possible rebranding of Gold Class and maybe him getting his real name back, and it's like he's going to go out there and kill it. This is a tremendous success story for Dragongate and for Minorita himself, and I am really glad he's back.
Yeah, and it's, as Gold Class is going to probably evolve into something else, it's just having him back and as his own person, I feel like will be really interesting. You mentioned Naruki Doi is the wrestler that sparks joy for you. The second I hear Minorita sped up theme song, I start smiling.
Look, the whole thing has been great. I can't believe 2.5 years later, despite some injuries and some setbacks, that the Minorita act as it is still as entertaining as it is. But he's just crushed it, and I am really glad he's back in the fold.
Absolutely. I'm going to run through the Buyuden show that's coming up next week. That will be on
We've got the Kyoto show before that. Do you want me to read the Kyoto card real quick?
Yeah. If you read the Kyoto card, I'll go through Buyuden.
Yeah, let me do this because I think this Kyoto card looks awesome. This is going to be on July 13th, which is Saturday. And this is Kota Minoura versus Ishin, Dragon Kid, Kagatora, and Susumu Yokosuka versus Ho-Ho Loon, Ryo Fuda, and Ultimo Dragon. Yamato versus the aforementioned Minorita in a singles match. Flamita, KZ, and UT versus Kai, Jason Lee, and Shun Skywalker. Your semi-main event is Ben K and BB Hulk versus Strong Machine J and Big Boss Shimizu. And your main event, Hyo, Luis Mante, and Jackie Kame of Big Hug versus Dragon Daya, Madoka Kikuta, and Ryo Tanaka of D-Courage.
So wish Ben wasn't teaming with Hulk, but the rest of that sounds like a blast.
Whole show, I think, looks great.
Yeah, I am really for that. And yeah, doing a Big Hug versus D-Courage as a main event, I enjoy that. And I'm glad that they are doing a singles match, Yamato versus Minorita there in Kyoto, because Buyuden Zero Volume 5 comes to us this Tuesday, coming up on the 16th from Shinjuku Face. And we immediately see the Lek Corporation, like the fact that the Lek Corporation is not involved anymore, it shows up on the card. As we are not getting a MMA Minorita match. We're not getting a lot of kind of like the 90s people that we were getting on those previous ones, or the more shoot style people here. Ryo Kawakura. I'm blanking on his name. I mispronounced him. But like the Pancrase people aren't showing up here on this show anymore. Now we have Ryu Fuda and Daiki Yanagiuchi versus Junta Miyawaki and Yu Owada of Noah. Yamato versus Jun Masaoka, who is freelance and of Kiki. Masaaki Mochizuki and Punch Tominaga versus Toryumon Runaway, Ken Oka, and Shichiro Katsumura. He is the real Tiger Mask of Gambare Pro. A special Mexico All-Star match. Luis Monte and Flamita representing Dragongate versus Los Gobeladores, Dragonbane and Alpha Wolf. And then Dragon Daya Hayata, Mochizuki Jr. versus Ishin, Jason Lee, and Hanaoka of Secret Base.
I think this is an okay show.
It's you see who they can get for not a lot of money, it seems like.
Yeah, that is true. I guess I'm blinded by the Young Guys tag. I think the Young Guys tag is going to be awesome. And I think, well, you know what? No, you know what? I'm going to stand by my convictions. I like this show. The Young Guys tag looks great. The Flamita and Monte tag could be really awesome. And I think the Dragon Daya and Junior and Zebras match would be really awesome if Hayata wasn't in it. And you could literally put in anybody in Hayata's place, and I think I would enjoy it more. But I'm still kind of into that match.
Yeah, those tag matches really are the ones that I have any interest in, to be honest. I'm just at a point where if I'm Punch Tominaga on these shows are fun, but it's against Kenoka and Katsumura, who, yeah, he does have that background, but you're just kind of like, oh, it's just, what are we doing here with that? With that and that act. And credit to Hanaoka, I mean, someone getting his foot back in the door in a while.
I really like him. I would like him to stick around. I don't think he's going to, but this is a fun show. The punch tag will be nothing, but everything else I could see being very good. And that main event, I think they're going to, I hope and I think they're going to go out there and just absolutely crush it. I think they're going to really want to kill it. So I hope they do.
I guess really the question there is, does Mochizuki Jr. bleed or not? Because he did bleed against his father. That's the real statement of where Kota Minoura is right now. Mochizuki did not bleed for him.
Wow. No, I think Ishin will bust him open.
Oh, hell yeah. He still has some anger against them.
I think I would expect to see them wrestle a lot in the second half of the year.
Yep, and I'm here for that. But I think that's going to do it for us this week, man, unless you have any other last takeaways.
That's it. We'll talk to Jay next week, and Kobe World Season's here, baby.
Oh, yeah. We will be recording with Jay. That'll be your next episode. We'll preview the entire show and probably a lot more with Jay coming up this weekend. But you could follow us on Twitter at OpenVoiceGate. Case is at _in your case. I'm at Fujiheya. Thanks for listening to Open VoiceGate. We'll be back with you next week. Take care, everyone.
Hello, everyone. My name is Taylor.
And I'm Kelly.
And we are the co-hosts of Jumping Bomb Audio, the #1 show all about the world of Joshi Pro Wrestling. Episodes drop every other Monday, where we discuss the biggest Joshi news, review shows, and preview the hottest upcoming Joshi action.
So whether you're a new fan or an old fan, we've got something here for you at Jumping Bomb Audio.
Check us out on the Voices of Wrestling Podcast Network.